Okay, well, welcome guys. Today we're just going to go through a quick story of one of the clients that we have, the University of Alberta. We're going to do a little case study of how we implemented an electronic records management system, including records management across campus. After that, we're going to have Suresh and Joshee over here, if you want to just come and stand up over here. We're going to have Suresh kind of talk on some points here, and then Kevin's going to touch on what's new in Records Management 2.2. So my name is Mike Priest. I'm currently the CTO of Glazr software, which is kind of a complementing piece to the implementation we had. We'll talk a little bit about that. My previous role, I was actually one of the solutions architects for a consulting company called Abstractive. We're kind of umbrellaed under the same ownership there. And I was involved in actually doing the implementation and kind of the solutions architecture of the system within the university. This is Suresh.
Yeah, I'm Suresh Joshee. I'm a product manager of EdRMS. My role is basically looking after the operations and make sure that the EdRMS is working perfectly for our student and the faculty members.
Okay, so the university is actually one of the biggest universities in North America. You have over 30,000 students, over 15,000 staff, and they have 18 faculties over 5 different campuses. So can anyone raise their hand and give me the first thing that comes to mind when trying to roll out an implementation this big? Like what your main issue is you're gonna have? Is anyone? Don't be shy. Migration is certainly one of them. Yes, that's definitely one of the biggest ones. And actually touching on with user acceptance and onboarding is actually having people talk to each other is probably the biggest thing. Between 18 different faculties, it's really hard to actually have some sort of standardization for anything. So the university this is actually a kind of a long time coming for this project. They've actually failed to do ECM across campus twice, 2 different solutions. It's been a 7-year project. We actually rebooted the project using Alfresco, what, 3-4 years ago now? So yeah, 3 or 4 years we've kind of moved this over to Alfresco. And we've actually implemented a campus-wide ECM solution. Everybody is moving on board to have all of their electronic documents and trying to reduce all of their paper. And some of their biggest objectives is actually to have standardization across the board, streamlining their processes and making sure that what we develop is actually reusable and something we can kind of plug into different faculties. And you know, as I mentioned before, the biggest part of that is to actually have people talk. So one of the problems that they actually had is they never had a records manager, and their approach to things was a little bit different when they were implementing other systems. A lot of this actually had to do with how Alfresco is structured, how it works as a repository. And their initial approach was actually to go through verticals. So they were going through an individual faculty and trying to go through every different document and every different process within that single faculty, and then try and move that across. And as you can see, if you're trying to go faculty by faculty, no one's talking. And as you go through, what you end up developing is completely customized, and it's completely custom to that individual faculty. So what we did is we actually switched that around and went horizontally across the university. We picked the biggest pain point with our documents, which would be admissions records. We basically took one record series and then implemented that individual record series across all the different campuses, which actually forced us to actually start getting people to talk together. So that's why we created these working groups. So we basically got kind of the main decision makers at each faculty in a room together, and actually told them, okay, well, how are we going to get everybody to work together, and how can we repeat what we've developed for other faculties? So that really was quite a big turning point in this project. And the second one is if you're onboarding people, as you say, you've got 30,000 students, you've got 15,000 staff. You need to make sure that everybody has actually used the system. So the original approach for just going through and customizing everything for individual faculties is when people got into a room, they never actually have even used Alfresco or even seen it yet. So that was actually really funny because you can't really develop out requirements unless you actually know what you're building for. So we got them to actually start using the system, using all the out-of-box features. And one of the nice things that you'll find is Alfresco is very feature-rich. There's a lot of things that end users can do, and actually use the out-of-the-box features to solve a lot of the current issues that they have, just from basic document management, versioning, security, but also starting to think about how metadata works and how important it is. Especially with the majority of these faculties being paper-based, as they never really had a concept of what metadata was. So that actually means that they never had any records management policies. And as I said just before, they never had a records officer. So the response times are really, really slow. If they go to the litigation, one faculty, what they determine is freezing a record is completely different than another one, and everything was just really hectic and just kind of all over the place. So they went and hired a records officer. They started putting in all of the records policies, putting those in place, getting all of this disposition schedules, and making sure that if the next time that they go and they go to litigation, then they actually have all their ducks lined in a row. And the process is going to be a lot smoother, a lot quicker, and increase those turnaround times. So having this working groups definitely allowed us to start standardizing on all of the processes, but also talking about metadata. Okay, well, if you've got this particular document, and take a look at your file case right now, what is the hardest thing is to try and find those files. If you had a little box full of individual words or individual criteria for that document, and you could pull it out, what would those be? If you really want to identify those documents quickly, what is that information that you're going to need to search for? So that we actually went through that. And then it gave them a good chance to actually look at themselves. So they could actually go through and say, okay, well, this is how we do the process now, but in an electronic world, it's completely different. We actually had, as they never actually went through and played around with Alfresco, they were actually trying to implement the customizations that they had, basically replicated what they had in the paper world. And things like, a docket sheet that says, this person's taken this paper out, and they work on this desk on this campus. It doesn't apply because, of course, we're in an electronic world. Multiple people can access the folder at once. It's not physically moving around, so that was pretty good. And then again, one of the biggest objectives was, once we've got an ECM system, it's onboarding. It's how do you actually get people to use the system? So we'd actually developed, from the consultant side, we developed a product that actually allows you to onboard things quicker. It also allows you to, once people are onboarded, to keep performance up, actually making sure that people are getting their tasks accomplished. And we actually worked with the Alfresco University to develop out kind of 33 tours for the fundamentals of Alfresco, so people can onboard really quickly. So we'll show you a little bit of that in a little while. So now that we changed this process, the grass is always a little bit greener when you're getting rid of your paper. We actually developed a small little application that will remove all of your small paper-based processing, and I'll show you that in just a second. But these are the key factors of actually getting people to work together, is to agree on things like naming conventions, agree on standardized metadata. So if I enter in a student name, it's the student name field that's within the records management system is going to be the same for everybody else. So, I don't just get one faculty's information back, I get everything back. The push to try and go paperless is, they started implementing FSoft, which is basically a smart document classification system. It'll do OCR, it'll bring in your documents and put them directly into Alfresco, and it connects really well with the Alfresco Records Management, especially when you have your content rules to kind of automatically declare records. And that's one thing that Suresh will talk a little bit about, is what they're looking forward to on the records management side, on 2.2. So before I get to that, I'm just going to quickly switch laptop here. I know this is kind of not conventional here to do this, but switch this. Sorry, Kevin, we're not going to drop your laptop here.
I won't drop it.
Okay, so here we go. So this is just a quick example of one of the paper documents that they had within the university. It's just a small process. It's just a two-step workflow. Once they actually, in the paper world, it's just a two-step workflow for somebody to approve it. But in terms of having this in paper, is you've now got to do all that back file scanning. They actually take, 8 carbon copies of the same one just to distribute across the university, which again can be a complete nightmare for managing that paper, and also, of course, the cost of it, and then bringing it back into electronic after. So what happens is it's just a fillable web form that actually, it's essentially kind of like a new document type. Like you've got Microsoft Word, you can download it, you open it in Word, you can edit it, change it, and then save it back. It works exactly the same way, except it's a web form. So you fill out the information, you save it, and once it's saved, it'll go along a certain path. It'll create a folder structure. I'll create a student folder for them and apply all the correct metadata. And then the document actually gets, a workflow automatically gets kicked off. And you actually have a PDF version of the document. And you actually edit it online. So it basically, as I say, it's just like a Word document. You basically can switch between the PDF version, which is just kind of the managed content with Alfresco. So you've got your versioning, you've got all the neat stuff that Alfresco can offer. But then you can bring them back. So straight away, it's just an HTML form. So they've implemented a number of converted from a number of paper forms to web-based now, and they've just got rid of the entire paper. So that was quite a big accomplishment for them. The university has now implemented the Alfresco tour guide. So as I say, this was the onboarding thing that's going to really help you distribute all of the features across campus. So on the right-hand side here, this is just basically a pull-out menu that gives the user a list of tours that are actually available within Alfresco, and it basically goes through all of the fundamentals of Alfresco. So I'm actually logged in right now. So the user can get to this in a number of different ways. They can, for end users that are using Alfresco, some of them don't know the terminology. They don't know what a dashlet is. They don't know what the difference between a record and a document is, which is one of the biggest issues that the university have had there. So if you don't know the terminology, you can just click on visual search, and this will basically highlight every feature on the page that has some user guidance tied to it. So you just say, oh, I want to know how to use this feature. So what you need to do is you just click on the feature, and it'll say, okay, you want to know how to learn to create a site, start the tour. So if we can refresh. And if I lost internet connection. Good. So again, I'm in the administration mode, so you'll hit this play button. But essentially, it's now going to give me step-by-step guidance on how to accomplish a specific task. So it's a little bit different to training, because training is geared towards kind of trying to educate people, where this is tied more towards actually accomplishing a task. And one thing that we already learned, we did a little bit of training with some of the working groups within the university. But again, they didn't use the system until 6 months later, so they actually lost a lot of the knowledge and needed a quick refresher. So if you're going to scale the training across 30,000 students, you can't send, a high turnover for one, and it's students, you can't send them off-site for training. So, so it really helped them out. So the key thing about this application, though, is that you actually use the system. The tours actually follow you. You don't follow the tours. So you can see when I actually, click on Create Site, it'll actually follow me as I go through this, and you can give them helpful descriptions and kind of keep them on track as they go through. I'm not going to get too much into this because I'm going to hijack this presentation. But if you want to see anything like this, we actually have a booth just downstairs. So grab one of these pamphlets, and give you all the information of actually what we developed out there. And you guys could use it too if you have this big of an implementation. So I'm going to switch you over to Suresh, who's going to talk about the current projects that he's dealing with and how he's looking forward to the new RM.
Thank you, Mike. Earlier, somebody has mentioned what is, oh, sorry. Yeah, earlier somebody has mentioned what are the challenges for ECM system. Is one of the challenge is the data migrations. I will be talking a couple of integration with other system that we need to do on this project. We are in the first phase of our EdRMS, which is called Electronic Document Record Management System, first phase, and we are taking 3 projects under the first phase, and one of them is the undergraduate student records. Under this project, we are using the Episoft for smart capture and metadata extractions, and all the transcript that are not the electronics which we already received. We are planning to use the Episoft and extract the metadata and put into Alfresco. And that is going quite well. And other things we are working on is electronics e-transcript project. Under the e-transcript project, all the Alberta high school students gives all the transcript into the EPAS system, and Alfresco integrated with the EPAS system, and we put that transcript into the Alfresco. And third one, we are working on, we have admission systems which store all the admission informations, and we are integrating with that internal system which can put the document into the Alfresco. So basically we are working on 3 things under the undergraduate student records project. And employee records, we are planning to using the waveforms what the mic previous shows. All our PDF forms will be converting into the waveforms and save into the PDF and kick in the workflow based on the business process. So we are working on that side. And other project we are taking is the donor records. We have an external system which hold all the donor informations, but we want to put the donor documents into the Alfresco. So we are actually working on integrating with external system with the donor information so that all the document can be into the Alfresco and the information will resides in the donor systems. So I will quickly go into the future projects. So we use the PeopleSoft, and which is the source of truth for all the informations. We would like to integrate with the PeopleSoft, and some partial implementation is already done. We want to do as a web services, and currently we added the database module so that we can query to the PeopleSoft, and that is going on as a part of the project. And we want to actually integration with the IMS system. Current IMS system doesn't provide the group informations, and we want to add that, and so that we can sync with the Alfresco group and the IMS group, so that we can use the permission system security models that we define. And we'd like to upgrade to RM22. Especially we are looking into in-place record declaration on RM22, so that user doesn't have to go into RM module to find the document, and they can see right from the document side, and user doesn't have to worry about where the document resides. So we are looking forward in coming versions. And Mike talked about the user education and training, and one of the participants did mention about user acceptance. And with this tool, we are hoping that user acceptance will increase as we move forward. And we would like to have a change management process in place so that only authorized people can change the code and that kind of things, and who can do what. And we want to develop the additional workflow. Currently, we have developed a couple of workflow, but as we go, as we understand the business process, we'd like to develop some of the workflow to manage our business processes. Yeah. That's all. Thank you. So anybody have any questions? Do we have a time for questions? Sorry. Yeah.
So the question was, what were some of the challenges for user adoption? I guess the biggest challenge was, how do we actually deal with high turnover? Because not only just on terms of new students are coming on board every year, but the actual the employees are actually quite high turnover as well, because you have a lot of you'll have like a lot of PhD students that are actually working with the university. They'll graduate and then move on into some research or whatever else that they're doing. It's also the cost as well. At that scale, the cost of trying to do end user training, whether you're doing it through the Alfresco end user training classes, or if you're doing kind of train the trainer sort of methodology, usually the people who are doing train the trainer have other jobs to do. So you're actually cutting into their work time to actually be able to implement that. And also, it's kind of daisy-chained information as well, so you end up losing bits of information when you kind of do trainer-trainer. One thing that they were thinking about implement is videos, but videos are also very high cost in production. To try and actually develop the videos and then try and have them narrated, and then when you upgrade to the new version of Alfresco, those videos are all now useless because you have the new skin and all those sorts of things. Okay. So I guess one of the biggest issues that users that something like the tour guide can help you out with. A lot of people tend to lose their orientation within Alfresco when they're looking between a site and a records management site, and they use a dashboard because they all kind of look the same, but they also don't really understand the difference between a document and a record, mainly because the UI looks the same. They both look like documents. So the way that we tackled that sort of problem is we actually create a tour that says, well, this is what your regular share site looks like. This is the difference in the records management site, and then the tooltips can actually describe and give you examples of the difference between a record and a document. And mainly, the way that we typically describe the difference is a record is locked down. It's once it's in the records management system, you're not changing the data. It's kind of at its final stage in the document lifecycle, and at that point now, all it needs to do is stay in some sort of retention plan and then go to archives or get destroyed. So it's just we use the tool to actually explain that entire process. Where normally, if you just walk through the UI is not going to tell you that process, so you can kind of give them a bit more information. Does that answer your question? In terms of the actual records management system, that could be a number of different ways. You can have that jump off from a smart folder. So smart folders are basically just a regular folder you can, as soon as a document gets dropped in or gets updated, you can actually fire off some business process. One of those things could actually be just to move it into the records management system. You could do it through workflow. At the end of the workflow, it could go and get dropped into another record into the records management system. You could actually just do it manually. So with the new RM version, you can just say, just declare this as a record in place. What happens is it creates a link between the records management site and your regular document management site. So it looks like it's still in the document management site, but it's actually been moved over. So that's kind of a manual process there. Do you have any?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, either manually or automatically. You can also use workflow. There's all kinds of different things you can do.
Do you have any other questions? Kevin's going to go a bit more into the actual records management tool itself. So a lot of the questions that you may have on records management specifically, he'll probably demo right now. He'll do a better job at it than I do. So.
Hopefully. Hi, so I'm Kevin Dorr. I'm from Alfresco Software, and I'm going to go through this stuff pretty rapidly because it looks like we're really starting to run out of time. Let me go to the next slide here. So this is a slide about how we've come out with RM so far. In 2009, we introduced the first version of RM, which is what the University of Alberta is using. Then a couple of years ago, we came out with RM 2.0, which allows you to do in-place record declaration. So from your content management system, you can say, I want to declare this as a record, and it goes into the records management system. Then last year we came out with version 2.1, and now we're in this year. So I'm going to be talking about RM 2.2, and we'll have another version called RM 2.3 next year, which will work with Alfresco 5. All of these versions are DoD 5015, that should say 5015, not 5051. Certified, and we got a perpetual certification with the RM 2.0 version. So that lasts, for the rest of time, I guess. And then next year we may introduce classified records management because that's a big requirement for the federal government. This is what sort of what happens with records management is you have a bunch of different share sites all of the records move into a single records management site. So you have one site to control, one site to back up, and that's how all of that works. In terms of the version compatibility, this is the which versions of RM match which versions of Alfresco. And so that if you have any questions about which version to get, that's where you need to look. I'm going to move through here pretty quickly. So I said we're DoD 5015.2 certified. So what does that mean, really? Well, what that means is that there's 3 sort of layers of a file plan when you set up records management. There's categories and folders, and what's called a series at the top. Categories can contain disposition schedules, so that's where you set up the stuff that you want to use. So your file plan looks sort of like this in terms of how it's structured. And in the original version of records management, that was all you got, was just 3 layers of hierarchy, and that's changed now with 2.2. So initially, and that's what I was just referring to there, that now you can have multiple levels of categories. So in terms of how 5015.2 is implemented, there's some mandatory DoD metadata, including the publication date, the author, some other things like that, that go right onto the record for the content type for the record. And then there's some additional metadata that you can add as an Alfresco aspect that comes along with that. So in the new version of records management, we allow you to select compliance, and if any of you saw Roy's talk this morning, you can actually add your own compliance too if you want to. Right now we've got 2 levels of compliance. We've got standard and DoD 5015, which is what's being shown here. So when you select your records management site, you get a pick, and I'm sorry for the eye chart. You can kind of come back to some of these slides that have really small writing on them and use them as a reference later. So what the compliance setting actually does is this. So you have a content object. It's got some metadata. When you declare it as a record, there's an additional set of data that gets appended onto that, including DoD 5015 metadata, and that's what happens currently. So that's metadata that's mandatory according to the DoD 5015 rules. And so part of that causes a problem for people who don't really care about it because you have to fill it out. And so what we've allowed you to do is to go to the standard metadata now, where you can either add your own custom types of records or custom metadata, but you don't have to fill out the 5015 anymore. Secondly, we now allow you to file a record to multiple locations. So for example, if you have a employee contract, you might want to put that in an employee folder in the records management system. But the people in the legal department might also want to have that in a folder where they can get access to it. So in that case, you really want to be able to file it to 2 places. So in order to do that, we've implemented what's called linking a record into a folder. So we let you select a link item, and then you can pick which folder you want to link it to. And you can set up multiple links if you want to. So what that really does is this is how things happen in terms of who owns the primary parent. So at the point that you move a record into records management, there's a primary parent association made to the folder that's in the records management system. If you make a link to one, it makes another association to it. But then you may ask, well, how do I know which disposition schedule is going to get executed for that particular record? And the answer is that the longest disposition schedule, the most tightly controlled one, wins. In addition, we also have implemented structure in the Unfiled record folder. When you put a record into the records management system, it used to go into a single folder like this called Unfiled records. Now we've allowed you to make subfolders in there that can have their own sets of rules. So that allows you to basically add rules that are specific to particular parts of your company, and you can maintain them easier that way. So here's a picture of the Unfiled Records folder with a couple of subfolders in it there. And I'm going to go through that pretty fast. Basically what happens there is that you can come in here, you can manage rules and do different types of folder operations on those just like you would in Alfresco. In addition, there's some new rule improvements that allow you to set up rules easier. So this is a picture of the screen that you use when you configure rules, and you can configure rules on pretty much any folder in the records management system. So this is a picture of the rule that's been set up on a particular folder there in the unfiled records that's called File Employee Contracts. And what that does is it automatically moves any records that are put into a particular folder into a location in the file plan. So to set that up, you can come in and you can specify what the conditions are when you want to trip a rule. And then down farther in the page there, you can see there's a bunch of functions, including all of the records management functions that you can execute. And the new stuff now allows you to, it provides help to you about where to go file something. It also provides context-sensitive help, and this is kind of hard to see probably in the back, but you can start to type in a partial path of what you would like it to do, and you can substitute in variable values, metadata variable values, which will be used as part of the path name. So this particular one is substituting a date part into the path name. And you can also substitute other pieces of metadata. This one's trying to autocomplete on a particular prefix in the metadata. Now, we also have implemented some new legal hold mechanisms. So what the hold used to do is it used to just be called freeze. It would put the record into a hold folder. Now we allow you to actually categorize the hold, so that comes in as sort of subfolders within the hold folder. And then you can store a record into one or more legal holds. So you can specify which legal holds you'd like to have, and then you can store the record into those, and you can store it into more than one if it's involved in more than one legal hold. So to do that, you select a create a hold option from the menu there, and then here's the view of the hold folder. When you select the link to hold a record, you'll get a display that looks like this, and then you can select which things you want to add the hold to. Sorry, I'm going really, really fast here. You can also select from a search as well now, so you can move it directly to a hold from a legal search. And then you can also edit holds as well, so you can remove records from a legal hold or just unhold them there. You can also generate a hold report as well, and the hold report looks like this. So that'll show you when a hold was created, what's in the hold, and what the hold was for. I'm going to skip over this part. And here is the big finish. So one thing that we did previously with the in-place records management is if you clicked through on one of the things that have been filed on a record, so this is actually a view of your document management side of the house now, it would move you into the middle of the file plan in the records management system. And a lot of people didn't like that because there are some security things around it and that type of thing. So what we've done now is we've actually set it up so that you stay on the document management side of the house. And so the top part of this looks pretty much just exactly like your document management page. But now the bottom half of the screen actually has the properties from the record management side so that you can, actually here's the record management properties here. So here's the record management properties. You can see what disposition schedule it's under and what the disposition instructions are, what the cutoff date and all the records management information is without actually going into the RM system. So That's the really rapid tour. Sorry, that was pretty rushed, but anybody have any questions real fast? Yes?
How about multiple folds? So more than one fold on one document?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what those folders that I talked about are. So you can set up a hold folder. Any hold folders that you have under the hold main folder will show up when you say, I want to make a hold. It'll let you select one or more right then. So, yes? Well, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that. Are they in a records management system now, or? So we have a bulk load application, and you can load those directly into records management, or you can run them through workflows. There's several different migration type of strategies, but well, the file plan itself, you can define. So do you have a file plan defined right now? Oh, I see. Well, that's partially a question for your records manager, and I hope you probably have one, but I'll toss that to Mr. Priest over here.
Sorry, so what was the question again? So it's typically, again, it depends on well, one, how many documents that you're doing, but also how your file plan's set up. Kevin had just mentioned that Alfresco has a bulk import tool. You can actually tweak that. It has, well, depending on if you've got a disk, you can actually use in-place bulk import, which actually just, you don't have to do file transfer, so it's actually a lot quicker. But when those documents get dropped into Alfresco, you could actually just create a rule that looks at those documents. Do those documents have metadata associated with them, or? Okay, so you would have the document itself, right? Do you have the data hosted somewhere else? Okay. Okay, so you would need to have metadata for those documents. So you could do that in form of whatever system that you're using right now. You could export that into, say, a JSON object or XML document. And we actually did the exact same thing with the university. This was all dealing with electronic student records. It was actually electronic transcripts, and they were coming from, all different kind of places around the world. What they did is they actually brought in, there's thousands of transcripts that come in every month, and they would dump a document as well as kind of an accompanying JSON document that would have all of the metadata within that. We would use the import tool to actually bring the documents, like both the JSON and both the actual physical document, into Alfresco, and then we would just have a content rule, so just a smart folder within Alfresco that actually married the two together. So it would apply the metadata to the document. It would remove the JSON file, and then it would actually use just a bit of logic that says, depending on the metadata that's on that document, go file it into a specific record series. Yeah. So for the university, everything was put under. There's basically a student record site that all the students, they would be broken down by faculty, by business function. So it could be an admissions document, it could be correspondence, it could be a number of different things. And their file plan was actually based on the business function itself, not based on certain pieces of metadata. And we as I say, we just used a content rule to marry the metadata up with the process or with the actual file plan. And we just just moved the documents straight into the records management. So we didn't have to do any sort of migration from DM to RM. It was just straight from the bulk import straight into records management.
So I think we need to stop because
Yeah.
we're over time and we need to let you guys go to the next session. If you have any other questions, please feel free to come up and we'll take them offline.
Yeah.
Thanks very, very much for coming.
Yeah.